Good morning, everybody. Mr. Tinnel here. Today is Tuesday, April 21st. And today we're talking about the beginning of World War I and its characteristics, the main causes of World War I and its characteristics. So today this is going to be the first real new content lesson. So it's going to be a little different. This is going to be a little bit longer. And it does have a presentation and guided notes attached to it in a Google form, and we'll walk through what that is in a minute. My goal is to keep it under 20 minutes, so we will try to do that. And as a little bit of encouragement, halfway through, middle of the video, there is a little task. If you do that, there will be a little reward, and you'll see what that is in a minute. So good things. Good things. So there's a online social media network called Nextdoor, which is a thing to connect neighbors in a neighborhood. And Jen got on Nextdoor and got us some. We traded out some seeds to plant. So I have a bunch of new stuff planted. Arugula, different types of lettuce, parsley, what else? There's just a bunch of other herbs and plants. So yeah, I look forward to planting all that. We'll see if it starts to pop up. So hopefully you guys have good things. Keep sharing them. I love hearing them. I like hearing that you're getting dogs and that you've gone to Dairy Queen and all those good things. So yeah, let's jump into what we're doing today. Like I said, this is a little different, so I want to walk through how I would suggest doing it. First, I would suggest having this video open, and I would suggest you can look through the presentation on your own if you'd like, but I would suggest reading through these guided notes, reading through this Google form, and as we're talking about it, as we're talking about these topics as we go, answer them as we are going through it. And then if you need to go back and look through this presentation more thoroughly, you can do that. So let's jump into this presentation. So we have the causes of World War I, the main causes of World War I. A lot of this is stuff that you have talked about, so I'm going to go quickly. There are a lot of pictures in this, so I'm going to go quickly through those also. You can go through and look at the pictures on your own and analyze them on your own. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them because I just don't want to hold you guys up longer than I need to. So, main causes. There are 4 main causes to World War I. And they're very fundamental things. And when you look at all of those put together, it kind of makes sense why World War I happened. So the first main cause is, and all of these are vocab terms we actually looked at before this quarantine started. So the first is militarism. Militarism is the belief that a nation needs a large military force. So each country in Europe was building their military force. Basically, you have one country starting to build their army, and if you see your hostile neighbor starting to build their armies, you're going to be concerned. So what are you going to do in turn? If you see your neighbor building up their armies and they're a little hostile, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to protect yourself. So you're going to build your army. And then this goes back and forth until these countries have massive militaries. So this statistic here, France and Germany had more than doubled their armies between a 44-year span, doubling their armies. There was fierce competition between Britain and Germany for mastery of the seas. They both created different types of naval vessels. The British battleship Dreadnought here. You see the British battleship Brandenburg. Germany starts to have some success with a different type of naval vessel that we'll see later on in this presentation. So moving on, we get to alliances. Alliances, obviously, is when one country will protect another country. So countries in Europe began forming friendships or alliances with each other and other nations, promising to aid their allies in a time of attack. So if you and I are allies, if I go to war, then you will come to war with me. If I am attacked by someone, then you will come to help me. So it sounds simple, but the problem is when you have all of these outstretched alliances, a small conflict can explode into a massive conflict where if I join, then you join, and then my neighbor joins, and then their friend joins, and it spreads out into this massive conflict. So obviously an attack on one country meant its allies would come to its aid. Therefore, small conflict could become large rather quickly. This is a map of World War I Europe. We see a lot of different countries, a lot of countries that don't exist today on this map, focusing a lot on Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire doesn't exist today. So alliances that develop, we see pre-war, we see two different alliance structures formed. Italy joins Austria, Hungary, and Germany and becomes the Triple Alliance. So this is the pre-war alliances. These are the bad guys. England joins an alliance with France and Russia, and they become the Triple Entente. And they are the good guys. So you see Russia there and you think, they're the good guys. Yeah, Russia's complicated, and we'll get into Russia a lot over the next few weeks between World War I, World War II, and the Cold War. So England joins France and Russia. If you are ever in doubt of which sides are the good guys, always remember that France is our oldest ally. France has been America's ally since the Revolutionary War. We have always been allies with France. So you see Triple Entente. Entente is French. We were allies with France. So the side that we are on, the side that we would end up helping, obviously we would consider to be the good side. So the Triple Entente is the pre-war good guy alliance. So here you see that Russia, France, Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy being the Triple Alliance. You see a political cartoon here that basically shows that alliance system. If one person is attacked, then if one person is attacked, then the ally of the first will join in, then the ally of the second will join in, and then the other allies will continue on as a domino, group of dominoes falling. Next, we get to imperialism. We talked a lot about American imperialism, and you guys have definitely studied imperialism in 7th grade social studies, but imperialism is when stronger nations control weaker nations through politics, economy, military. The British Empire expanded over 5 continents. France had control of large areas of Africa. And basically what's happening here is European countries start chopping up specifically Africa in World War I, pre-World War I. So why Africa? Well, 2 reasons. One, there are resources there. If I go down and take over as much of Africa as possible, I get those resources. And then 2, we're getting into post-industrial revolution. We want to sell stuff. These European countries want to sell stuff. So these areas in Africa are markets. Those European countries can sell their stuff down in Africa. So using Africa for its natural resources and using Africa as a place to sell things. This chopping up of Africa still has effects on Africa today. We see a lot of these lines just arbitrarily drawn that are cutting up areas where native tribes had been together, and a lot of these countries are combining native tribes that were enemies. So you're putting two enemies in the same country. And you guys, a lot of you watched Hotel Rwanda last year. That's basically what was happening with the Hutus and the Tutsis. They were put into the same country by these lines drawn by European countries. So this being a cause of the war is that Germany is in this kind of tan color here. Germany had far smaller piece of the pie. They are going to be very spiteful for that. Spiteful because of that. They are going to want more. And lastly, nationalism. Nationalism was one of these main causes of the war, and nationalism is a strong feeling of pride, loyalty, and protectiveness over one's country. And it's not just that. This sounds like patriotism, but it's not just patriotism. This is an outrageous patriotism. It is to a crazy extent. It's not just that, America is the best. It's that America is the best and all other countries are terrible. We are great and you are terrible. You are weak. That's wrong. It's totally fine to be patriotic, but not at the cost of others. And this is the problem that we see in Europe. Is it's not just European. It's not just British patriotism. It is we are better than anyone else. The English are not afraid. So we see Europe filled with all of this tension. Europe is a powder keg. It's filled with tension from militarism, large militaries expanding. It's all this tension from alliances and imperialism and nationalism. All of this tension is being put on this powder keg in Europe, and all it takes is one spark to set off this powder keg. Oh no, if that spark hits, what's going to happen? Boom! Those are real special effects, I know. So what is the spark that leads to World War I? So many of you know this story too. Seventh grade did an excellent job of covering it, but the spark was June 28th, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austria-Hungarian Empire, goes to Sarajevo to attend a party and give a speech. So we see Ferdinand and his wife. They were both in Sarajevo. Wonderful hats. You gotta appreciate Franz Ferdinand's hats. Wonderful hats from Franz Ferdinand. So you see Austria-Hungary. He is the basically heir to the throne. He's second in line to become the king of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He is visiting Sarajevo. While he is there, a young Serbian patriot goes and assassinates Franz Ferdinand. So you may be saying, well, why would a Serbian go to Sarajevo to kill the king of the prince of this country? So Austria-Hungary was trying to take over Serbia. Austria-Hungary was putting pressure on Serbia and to take them over. So Franz Ferdinand, in a terrorist act, a part of the I'm blanking of Black Hand or Black Glove terrorist organization, goes to assassinate Franz Ferdinand for trying to basically take over Serbia. So he goes, both the Archduke and his wife are assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a nationalist, a Serbian nationalist. And many of you know this story. This story is fascinating. There were several people in this group that tried to assassinate Franz Ferdinand. Several of them failed beforehand. One tried to bomb Franz Ferdinand while he was driving through the streets of Sarajevo, and that failed. One of the guys ran away and tried to drown himself in a river and tried to chew on a cyanide tablet that had expired. Princip tried to assassinate him first, but then failed. He went away, went to get lunch, and while he was getting lunch, Franz Ferdinand happened to drive by, and in that process of happening to drive by, Gavrilo Princip finished the job. This sets off the dominoes that leads to World War I. So Austria-Hungary obviously declares war on Serbia. Well, Serbia was allied with Russia. Russia started amassing its troops on the Austria-Hungarian border. Well, that aggressive action leads Germany's ally, or Austria-Hungary's ally Germany, to attack Russia. Germany, knowing that they basically started a war and knowing that because they attacked Russia, what do you guys think would happen? If Germany attacks Russia, what's the next step you think would happen? You would think that France or Great Britain would attack Germany. Germany actually jumps ahead and they say, well, we're actually just going to go ahead and attack France. So Germany attacks France, knowing that they would be attacked anyway. So they go through Belgium and attack France. Because Germany does this, because Germany attacks France, what do you think the next steps are? Great Britain attacks Germany. So here's that domino effect. Austria declares war on Serbia. Germany supports Austria-Hungary. Russia supports Serbia. Germany declares war on Russia. France supports Russia. Germany declares war on France. Germany invades Belgium through France. Great Britain supports Belgium and declares war on Germany. This explodes the war, and we see the development of the Great War. So this next part are the characteristics of World War I, and this is going to be the moment where I actually throw out the task for the day. So I'm going to post this if you email me just to say hi, just to check in and say hi, email me and say hi before noon on Tuesday, April 21st, I will send you a postcard. So if I get a bunch of people that email me and say hi, I will write each of you. So I got a lot of cool postcards. I got a bunch of cool postcards on eBay. So send me a message before noon on Tuesday. Everybody, whoever sends it to me, I'll get in touch with them. So email me before noon Tuesday. All right, jumping back in. I'm going to really buzz through this. There are a ton of pictures here. You can look through these pictures on your own. You can analyze these pictures more on your own. So here we see the division of alliances once the war begins. Whichever side we are on is the good side. We are the good guys. So the name of our good side now is the Allied powers. The name of the enemy are the Central powers. You'll notice Italy is switches sides. They do switch sides halfway through the war. And then you'll see us down here. We actually don't join the war until very late in the game. We help out, but it takes a while for us to join. And we'll talk about that on Thursday, why it takes so long for us to join. So here we see the division of those alliances. It's a monument in Washington, D.C. for World War I. So characteristics of the war. Main characteristic is trench warfare. Soldiers were fighting from protected ditches. They suffered many casualties and gained very little ground. This is the biggest characteristic of World War I. Trench warfare led World War I to be far longer than it needed to be. So basically, trenches were being dug to protect themselves, to protect yourself from the enemy, but because you were so protected, it was impossible to gain ground. You see the trench system here. See a good shot of men living and fighting in the trenches. I really like this picture. This is an aerial picture of the trench system, and then so you see the two sides. So on the right are, let's see, so these are German, and the British are over here. The British trenches are over here. German are over here. This area in the middle is no man's land. That's the area that you want to take to try to take over your enemy, but they couldn't because you're in such dug-in trenches. The trenches were impossible to take over. Think about it. If I'm in a trench, you can't shoot me, but you go get in your trench. If you're in a trench, then I can't shoot you. We just keep shooting at each other and not being able to make any progress. This makes the war last so much longer. Trench rats. So yeah, there were trench rats. You can take some time and read through these stories yourself, but basically they're huge. Living in trenches led to food scraps, garbage that rats would eat, including dead bodies. Look at how big those rats are. Trench foot. You can read through that. Basically, you are living in standing water. If you are in standing water for a very long time, it is very bad for your feet. Anyone who's seen Forrest Gump would know that Lieutenant Dan, what does he always say? Keep dry socks. You always have to have dry socks, because if you don't, bad things will happen. Your feet have to breathe. If they don't, bad things can happen, and you'll see this in a second. If you do not want to see some really gross pictures, I would look away. I will tell you when they're off the screen, but this is what happens when you do not, when you get trench foot. See, bad stuff. Okay, bad pictures are off. All right, so weapons used in World War I. We see the development of poison gas. Basically, if you cannot attack your enemy, if you can't shoot your enemy, lob a canister of poison gas in their trenches. The obvious problem there is, it could blow back. But two, if the enemy develops poison gas, then you have this problem also. You obviously see the development of gas masks and gas masks for donkeys to protect yourself from gas in World War I. Machine guns, saw the development of machine guns. Machine guns had a lot of men to use them. They weren't this simple machine. Zeppelins, blimps. Blimps were useful in scouting and dropping bombs, but the problem with that is kind of an obvious one. Once weaponry gets better, they're easy to shoot out of the sky. So getting across, to find a way to get across enemy lines and no man's land, both sides start developing tanks. This is Little Willie. This is the first tank developed by Britain. We also see planes, and planes had only been around for a little over a decade. It's over a decade since the Wright brothers had created airplanes, and now we're seeing them used in war. Torpedoes, and the next thing after torpedoes, what usually they're fired out of, are submarines. Torpedoes get us into the war. Torpedoes fired from German U-boats get us into the war, as you will see on Thursday. Germany builds battleships, but where Germany starts really progressing in war is by using Unterboats, submarines, German submarines. So Thursday, we see America steps up. So there you go. That is our lesson for the day. Hopefully you were going along and filling out your guided notes. And if not, go back, fill those out. If you watch this presentation, those guided notes are super easy. It shouldn't be that difficult. Feel free to go back through and look at the presentation and watch through it. That is all I have for today. It's going to be a beautiful day. Hopefully you guys get out and enjoy it after you get through this lesson. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.